like to invite Richard up on stage from Agrimetrics, and Rich is going to take you through his inspirations and how he's changing the world. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Rachel. 5 years ago, I was working as Director of the Centre for Food Security at the University of Reading, working on some of the really big challenges that confront us in the agri-food system. And what I realised at the time was that one of the biggest challenges, the most significant challenges that affects us, is actually that a sequence of events might take place that move us into a situation where the food system tips from being in a bad place temporarily to a bad place permanently. So imagine this. Next year, there's a drought in Australia which causes the production of food to fall by 30%. That reduces supplies to the world market significantly, and as a result, Putin decides that he's going to impose an export ban because he wants to protect his domestic consumers. At the same time, a locust outbreak occurs in the northwest of China, and the overall impact of that is a doubling of the world price of wheat. Now, the world price of wheat, or some societies are incredibly sensitive to the world price of wheat, and one thing that happened some years back was the Arab Spring, which is arguably attributable to that, to doubling of the price of wheat. Now, that happens again in my scenario, and as a result of that, war breaks out in the Middle East. The Suez Canal is closed, and because the Suez Canal is closed, the Australian farmer has now lost their export market permanently. So even if the drought doesn't reoccur, they're still suffering, and the farms go out of business. So what now has happened is we've moved from a temporary situation, which was the drought, to a permanent situation where we've got severe reductions in the supply of wheat to the world market. Now, data can potentially provide the solution to that kind of problem by making connections between people in that sector. But unfortunately, the agri-food sector is characterized by many small businesses. And so collecting data and bringing data together is a real challenge in this space. So what we need to do is to engender a situation in which data is shared. But data is never going to be shared freely. What we need to have is a transactional sharing of data, where something is returned to the person that provides data in return for that provision. What we're doing is creating a data marketplace, or creating the infrastructure that supports a data marketplace, so that in return for allowing data off the farm, a farmer is rewarded with either an insight or with money. So what we've built is a data infrastructure that connects data wherever it is held using a knowledge graph. That makes data interoperable and tradable, and we've also built infrastructure that allows it to be permissioned and transactions to take place. That data infrastructure is now being used, and we've created a number of applications on the top of that data infrastructure. But what we really want to do is to engage with a very wide community of people to use the data that we have available through our infrastructure to create a massive number of applications that can help connect farmers and food retailers and processors across the world. So the applications that we have are a natural capital explorer that explains what natural capital is and allows decisions to be made around that. An application that allows farmers to better time their application of chemicals onto the land so that it avoids the risk of runoff and so forth. An application that allows us to identify where a particular crop is being grown in a country at a particular point in time, and to identify the weather conditions that are on those fields. And finally, an application that uses AI to identify where crops are being grown in the world. All of these applications are built on exactly the same infrastructure, that our infrastructure. So please come and talk to us. We're looking to build an ecosystem of innovation because we acknowledge that these problems, these challenges, are too big for any single company to solve. So please come and talk to us and contribute to that ecosystem.
Thank you.